Now that you've decided to start a drone business, how much is it going to cost? Well, I'm going to make a two-part video series here. In the first video, which I'll do today, we'll talk about the major line items and categories and itemize everything we need to consider when we're putting our budget together. Next week, we'll assign dollars to those categories and come up with a final cost. So stay tuned. Now, one of the first things to consider is, am I going into this full-time or part-time? This could be my full-time job or a side hustle. That's really going to impact your budget. And remember one thing here too, cash flow is king when it comes to a business. So make sure whatever you do, you can have a positive cash flow or have enough reserves to cover that as you move forward. What are your revenue goals? That's an important thing to consider. And remember, this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. Regardless of what you see in some of the other YouTube videos that are out there, you can't take a course or start your business and a week later making $1,000 a week. It just doesn't happen. It takes time, takes work, takes perseverance. But if you've got the staying power, you will be successful in this. Now to the line items. And don't worry, I'll summarize this at the end. First thing to ask yourself is, what kind of corporate structure am I going to have? Now, I'm not a tax attorney or a CPA, but most people go with an LLC, and there are some costs associated with that. What else do I need? Well, I need a federal tax ID because the government will want part of our taxes, right? Other thing to consider is a bank account. Got monthly charges involved with that, but we do need a bank account to operate our business. When you open your bank account, they will give you their own e-commerce options. I would suggest you wait on that till you explore some other opportunities. It could be an option, but you may want to go a different direction too. What about accounting costs? Well, being a brand new business, if you've got any understanding at all of finances, you can probably get by without an accountant to start with. But there are some key things to remember. You will have to provide quarterly estimates of your taxes and pay those quarterly payments. So that's something to keep in mind. How about insurance? Well, we have to have liability insurance to protect us and our family. What about hull insurance for the drones? That's pretty expensive these days, and you may or may not want to consider that. But here's some things you may not have thought about. What about your auto insurance? If you're now converting your car to business use, you need to cover that with your insurance agent and see what coverage you need there. Then, of course, you bought all this brand new equipment you're probably storing at your house. You need to look at your renter's insurance or your homeowner's insurance and make sure those items are covered there also. How about something as simple as your phone? You don't want to use your regular cell phone as your business line, do you? So you need to consider a separate business line. Now, that's pretty easy these days. There are a lot of VoIP providers out there that can add on basically a virtual phone line for you. Can have that forwarded to your cell phone, and it sounds like you've got a business line when people call in. So that's a good thing to consider. And you may want to consider something like Fiverr to get a professional voicemail intro. Okay, we got the corporation set up. We got our bank account set up. We know what we're going to do accounting-wise. What about a website? Got to have a website. First thing to do, of course, you've already established your name, I hope by now, is look for that domain name. And you got about 3 different choices here. You can do like I did and go with a hosting service and then build your website on WordPress. And there's good and bad with that. WordPress is a really good platform, but it's very difficult to work with sometimes. So I pay for that in terms of the time I spend on it, but spend less money. Then you could go with somebody like Wix or Squarespace that have these templates you can use to build your own website. They provide the hosting service, they provide the domain name, and it does simplify things, but you pay for that. And thirdly, you can go the custom route and have somebody actually design your website from the ground up. Very expensive, but you will stand out. Don't forget your Part 107 certificate. Got to have that to start, right? Now, what about marketing? Things like brochures. I know we live in a digital age, but a lot of people still like to have hard brochures to look at. So you may have some design costs associated with that. At a minimum, of course, you need business cards. A lot of those templates you can use online, design your own, and those aren't terribly expensive. When your website's built, you want to include a subscribe button on there so people that are interested in your services can press a button and subscribe to your mailing list. So how do you handle a mailing list? Use something like MailChimp, one of these email broadcast services. That way, once you build your email list, you can put out periodic emails to these people, announcing special deals, where you're going to be, offering services, any number of things. And that's a great marketing tool. And you've heard the term video is king. You may want to consider a YouTube channel and an Instagram account to put your work out there so people can see it. How about logo wear, shirts and hats and things like that? You may want to promote your business that way. Now the fun stuff, onto equipment. How about drone or drones? You may need more than one, and we'll talk about that a little bit next week. How about spare batteries, spare props, ND filters, a carrying case for all of it? You'll need a landing pad. And what about a smartphone or a tablet to operate your drone? Got to figure those costs in. Then you're going to need an adequate computer based on what you're doing. And what about this? A lot of people don't talk about this, but what about a separate ground-based camera? A lot of jobs you'll get are not just aerial. People want ground shots too, so you want to budget for that also. Some people figure they can just have raw photos and raw videos and submit that to the client. And while that works in some cases, I really think you need to go further than that and have the ability to edit that stuff. So that's going to mean editing software. What if you want to do mapping or roof inspections? Well, there's separate software for that too. Then finally, there's training. Can you do the Part 107 on your own, or do you need to go to class on that? Do you know how to fly your drone, or do you need a flight skills class for that? How about your editing skills? Do you need training for that? So that's a quick look at our budget items. And here's the summary of that. Next week, we'll assign dollar figures to all these line items and see if we can't come up with a good budget for you. Hope you're still enjoying these videos. I enjoy doing them. And if you got something from it, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe down below. And if you feel like sharing it with your friends, please do so. That would be greatly appreciated. And if you've got a video you'd like to send to me for me to include in a future episode, please do so. I'd be happy to include it. And as always, thank you for watching.